I'll just pick right up. So it's like, I've had, clients come to me, and whenever I'm like, hey, this is, my scope. I really think that I need to refer you out for this. They automatically think that they no longer need coaching. And I'm like, okay, like you need coaching more than ever. Cause not saying that, I never want to tell a client like you did this, or, you made yourself this way, but there, that can be said in certain instances, but I'm like, you still need to be coached through life. You still need to be coached through nutrition and coached through this period of time that you're in and after it. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I mean, we're the one, like, we're touching base every week, right? Like versus usually like,
And a lot of times
go ahead.
we have a more in-depth background on this person too. Whereas like a doctor's looking at their chart, they're not looking at her divorce or the
Right.
graduation or the miscarriage or the loss of the job or how COVID affected them. Like they're not seeing that.
That's a good
100%.
point.
I've
Which
actually,
absolutely work. Yeah.
I don't know, like if y'all have, and this is like very touch and go too. So I don't want to say this out, but I'm gonna say it. I have, in certain cases, had conversations with my client's physician, wanting to make sure that a line of communication is open, and that number one, they know that I know my place. But like, for example, I have a really good naturopath here, and any clients that I know need, lab work, needs prescription medication, needs, HRT, things like that. This is the person that I refer to. And I really love it because there's a dialogue. She's cool with me making sure that when I make that introduction between her and my client, I'm like, hi, these are the things that I'm seeing. This is my client's history. These are the things that we either have or are currently working on. And we kind of go from there. And it's a nice, what's the word I'm looking for?
Union.
Yeah, it's a nice union when you have practitioners that talk to each other. I will say, I use the word practitioner lightly because by definition, I am not a practitioner. I am a practitioner in dentistry still, but not, I am not a medical practitioner. So I do want to delineate that. But I think it's nice when we do have a union of communication. That being said, like, I'll just say this too. So there is like certain, not to say protocols, but like, for example, with supplements and stuff that I might recommend a client. And long as there's like a really good communication, like with the actual practitioner. So I want to know, like, why they've made the recommendations that they are, so that what I do complements, and that we're not over prescribing, we're not going down two different paths. And that's where it's really tough. And I have had that conversation with my clients as well, where perhaps they are working with a practitioner and their practitioner is leading them down path number B, and my route is path A. And you know what? We might get to the same destination, but we really need to make sure that we're not stepping on each other's toes, because that can actually make both methods null and void if we're not careful.
That's when it gets to like that too many cooks in the kitchen thing.
Yeah, 100%.
I had that.
It's,
Go ahead. I was gonna say,
No.
even PTs, like having that relationship with like someone's PT, that's like really big for me. Is like their PT can kind of email me like a breakdown of what they're doing and why, and then I can structure the training to complement, or again, make sure I'm not overdoing volume in one area or doing anything that would aggravate an injury. Is a big kind of relationship that I like to have.
Yeah. We also medically like can't diagnose, or like we can see something and a person can come to us with all of these issues, and we can look at the labs and we can go, based on these labs, it looks like you have XYZ, either disease, symptom, dig further, whatever. But we honestly, as coaches, We should not be doing that. We know, a lot of us know a good amount, right? And there's different areas where we might excel over maybe like a practitioner, but I think that there's a lot of coaches out there diagnosing people with like things that maybe they don't even have. And we see that with the commonality of SIBO. You have SIBO, you have SIBO, you have SIBO, you have SIBO. And it's like, no, you have dysbiosis, which is very different.
I feel like that was a trend for a while.
SIBO is a trend. And I get that, like, in terms, small intestinal bacteria overgrowth is just a bacteria overgrowth in your small intestine. So, but SIBO is a diagnosis. So SIBO is, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do y'all think that, you know, and I could be wrong here, I feel like, and this is no shade against any coach, because I truly believe that every coach out there has the intention of doing good, like 100%. Everyone who got into the space wants to do good, wants to help people. It's the same with medical doctors. Like, we poo-poo on them sometimes, but let's be real. Nobody gave away like 15 years of their life to be chronically under stress, to get a degree and like hate their life and, you know, be borderline like malpractice in their diagnosis. Nobody did that. I really think that everyone got into like these careers because they genuinely wanted to help people. But I also see, especially in, you know, again, not pooping on social media, but I see a lot of folks wanting to be like the discoverers of this magical thing. You know, it's like, I did not create the ovary. I will never get on social media and be like, so I found this ovary and you got 2 of them. And they produce these things called hormones. Like, I see so much. My mind is blown. Like, I just see so much of that, especially with the gut health stuff. Like y'all were saying with the SIBO, they're like, it's like these quote, the diagnoses. And I'm like, number one, like, we can't diagnose anything. And I'm very careful with my verbiage with clients. I'm like, hey, listen, I had a client where her labs looked very similar to trending towards like a Hashimoto's type of situation. And I was like, hey, and she's like, so is this Hashimoto's? And I said, I cannot say that. However, I can say that your body seems to be trending in this direction. And this is why.
That's the verbiage I'll use too. Like, hey, like, I've seen this pattern before, like with GI, like maybe we should look into maybe further testing with your doctor, or hey, like there's this other tool that I sometimes use and have had clients use that you can look into and let me know what you think about this GI map. Like, I'm not going to say, I'm going to run a GI map on you. Like,
yeah, you know, I tell them, you know, this is what we can find. This is the information that we can get from it. But I see so much.
So this is a really good example of when it is okay, because also like it's expensive to do coaching, right? Especially if you have functional issues, right? And it's expensive for testing. It's expensive for labs. These things all add up. So maybe it's 250 here, 250 there. But when you lump the sum up together and you're doing all the testing, it's a good $2,000 investment. And that's not even a $2,000 and I will be fixed. That's $2,000 and I'll know what's going on and I'll be able to work with it, you know?
Yeah.
Which is totally different because then the ball is still in your court. So I have a client and we've been going back and forth, and when we first started about 5.5, almost 6 months ago, there were definitely lifestyle issues going on, right? Lifestyle, hormones, possible PCOS, you know, like that term gets thrown around by doctors left and right, and lots of inflammation. And so it was a matter of like, okay, well, let's save on a GI map right now. And let's just clean up diet, work on stress, support digestion. This client particularly had no gallbladder either. So they were like, oh, okay, well, there's just a lot that can go wrong when you have no gallbladder and you're not supporting it with anything, right? And so after months of trying to use, you know, light antimicrobials and support digestion and work on stress, we weren't seeing improvement with gut. And I finally said, you know what, at this point, we can continuously throw darts at a board, hoping something will stick, but it's frustrating for you as a coach. Obviously, like I didn't say this, but it's frustrating for me because I want you to feel better. And when I'm using my tricks and I'm using my things and I'm listening to feedback, it's not always enough. And I'm a really big test and don't guess person. So part of me, when I read this, is like, damn it, I wish we would have done this sooner. But her GI map came back and she has an extreme overgrowth of salmonella. And I was just like, damn, okay, like some things aren't gonna, oregano oil and cat's claw, and like there's some things that just won't necessarily get touched with the higher amounts. If someone has a light E. coli or light C. diff or something, but when you have like these 10s, 11s, 12s of population overgrowth, like you're looking at the need of antibiotics in some of these cases, you know? And so it's just like, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, well, at what point do we just say we need to run a GI map? There's something bigger here. Like your doctor's not seeing it. We're not seeing it on labs. There's something else going on that we want to dig into. And also like to make sure that we're not missing something very big as well. Like,
yeah, that was the topic I actually wanted to talk to you guys on, and maybe, you know, on the podcast, because exactly, like, when do you test? Like, when is it, you know, when do you encourage the client to dig deeper? But I mean, Sonia, I just had like a very similar situation where I've been working with someone for a long time, like, you know, longer than 4 months. And I almost wish we started with the GI map, but here again,
I know.
I'm glad that we did establish a lot of foundational habits. And I'm glad I got to get to know her and her life and her lifestyle. She travels a lot, things like that. So, you know, hindsight's 2020, but I do think for a lot of cases, focusing on the lifestyle first, at least give it a good 6 weeks. You know, and that's depending, you know, client adherence, a solid 6 weeks before we say like, hey, maybe let's dig deeper, because like you said, like it could be a lot of times symptoms present similarly, or sometimes, yeah. So go ahead, sorry.
And keeping it, no, you're great. I mean, keeping in mind too, like specifically when it comes to gut, your gut microbiota, it changes with your diet. So if you go from high carb to low carb, if you go from low carb to high protein, if you go like, as you change your foods, your gut microbiome changes as well. Right. And so if a person goes from drinking and eating and just like being in more like of a high inflammatory lifestyle, and then all of a sudden you put them on like clean fruits, veggies, that in some people, that's enough to start changing their GI symptoms. And I've had clients where I think it's something severe and we run a GI map in the beginning and it's like, they're a little bit low on some strains, not enough food variety, maybe some colostrum, like just some different things that we can go in there. Where in my mind's eye, like in my head, I was like seeing a Christmas tree light up this test, you know, and you're like, oh, okay. Like maybe this was not necessarily a waste of money, because obviously it's still really good information, but what did it look like before we changed your diet? What did it look like? Because, you know, we're typically running that. It takes a couple days to get it. Like there's so many different, I think the thing with GI maps that are very different than labs is that they can change daily, weekly, they can look drastically different, you know? And so the GI is like this, like, it's so complex that I think that it always drives me nuts when people throw these very blanket statements on the situation.
I was going to say it drives me nuts. Yeah. Because you'll see like, you know, you don't just treat the test, right? Or I shouldn't say treat, you don't just go off the test, right? It's your client's presentation as well. Oh, damn, I was going somewhere with that. Oh, but yeah, like you said the low bacteria, like I think for our listeners, like understanding like there's the good guys and the, you know, quote unquote bad guys in our gut. And the bad guys are sometimes there and not overgrown, but then sometimes the good guys are just too low and we need to support and bring those up. Or like you said, with like the colostrum, like sometimes it's immune support. Sometimes it's not taking things out or eliminating or doing less. Sometimes it's adding the good stuff that you need.
Yeah. And I think that comes back to as well, like if your immune system is overactive or underactive, what strains you have and how you treat it might vary, because if you don't have enough immune support to go after something, you don't necessarily want to kick up a bunch of die-off. You know, you want to maybe support immune system first and then go in there. So I think it can be really important to test. I think that obviously I've never not enjoyed looking at a test, you know, because sometimes I'm even like, wow, this test doesn't show us anything. We need to dig deeper. But I think as well, a lot of these clients that come to us, and this kind of leads into the topic at hand, is that there's so much lifestyle stuff at the foundation of what went wrong and what is going wrong, that I think it doesn't even matter. You can have the amazing quote unquote gut protocol, but if Susan isn't creating changes in her lifestyle, like Susan will not see the changes in the most miraculous gut protocols. I don't care if it's the industry's top people. I don't care who's giving it to you. If your lifestyle foundations aren't in place and you're not working again on your mindset, on breath work, on these other things that matter that led you to that place, nothing will progress to the full extent as it could if you were also working on those foundational things. And typically the ones I see in my client load, and I don't know if you guys can relate, that have the best longevity and results, because as we know, gut issues can slide back very easily, are the ones that have taken the things like breath work, yoga, lifestyle changes very seriously, and not just quote unquote like white knuckled their way through their protocol.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I think there's like an element of surrender to it almost, but not in it's like a grieving process, I think, because I think people have to let go of a lot of the old patterns, the old beliefs. And I really don't think you can heal from a place of lack. So going into it, going into a gut protocol or any type of, healing journey, like you said, it's like all the supplements in the world, like put those aside. Like you have to like really kind of start believing that you're becoming this new person, and better yet, almost like believe that you're already there. Like I'm going to sound cheesy as hell, but like I am someone with good digestion. Like I poop every day, like whatever, like mantras, like, and then what does someone that has great digestion do? They probably, don't binge drink on the weekend. They probably, whatever it is, like, and start kind of acting as if. I think that's a really big part of a transformation, is what goes on in here and the thoughts that you tell yourself.
Yeah, making those choices based on like the new you. I talk about that with clients too. Like if we had to put a name and it was like, okay, Meredith, like what do you like, who do you see yourself as? And I try to never use this like skinny or fat, because like I hate those words. I hate when people identify as like those things. It's like, no, are you powerful? Are you strong? Are you wise? Are you calm? Maybe you're like, for me, I always try to work on like my calmness. Like, so I want to be calm Sonia. And so in moments, I think, what would a really calm, tranquil Sonia, how would I react? How would that person react in this situation? What lifestyle habits, what would that person do in the morning? What would their morning routine look like? And then trying to like fit myself into more of that routine. And it's funny because when you start to identify or strive to identify with those new goals that you have, I feel and I see people pull more towards into this like all in buy-in towards change. It's really cool, and growth.
And they get excited about it. It's more exciting versus, like you said, white knuckling it.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a client who wrote this, it was really awesome. We talked about the fact that, she's like, oh, this like very common theme of like, when I have no plan, it all goes to shit. Or like I have a plan, and then as soon as it doesn't fit in line with that plan, it goes to shit. So I said, well, what if we have a plan for when there is no plan? When I'm not at home, when I'm not in this perfect environment, then what would my plan look like? And so she was like, that's a great idea. And she literally wrote up a plan for when there is no plan, and it's like, I always have protein bars in my car holder. I always have water bottles. I have extra supplements and they're ready to go. I have this there. I know where the nearest like Jimmy John's is, so I can grab one on which I know where there's a Chick-fil-A and I can grab a chicken, like a plan for when there is no plan. And it's like really cool because then she went to Mexico and then she's like, I didn't have a plan for the resort. And I was like, okay, but it's still like, that's just identifying that you can see without as a coach, me having to be like, this is what might've went wrong. Do you also see that? She was able to in her check-ins be like, I know where like it first started and where I went wrong. And she's starting to identify those things ahead of time, which has been a long time coming for this particular client, which is really cool to see the process of change in her.
That's awesome. I love those shifts. And I like that. The plan when there is no plan. That's doing the next right thing and making it, that's like truly making it a lifestyle, I think.
Yeah, it has to change, I think. And I think that people who don't come in willing to change their core don't build the foundation they need to for change, you know? And I think then what happens is, and I can even speak for myself, when I had first like started having like severe gut issues and I was working with my coach on them, it was more of like, how quickly can I get through this so I can get back to doing what I wanted to do? And the minute I was like, I'm pooping daily, I feel good, I'm not bloated, I'm not keeled over in pain, I'm doing all this. And it was like, then I was just kind of like, no, I'm skipping meals, I'm standing up, I'm training too hard again, I'm not getting my sleep. I'm not like, I wasn't prioritizing the changes that it actually took for me to get there. Because it's easy as a coach to be like, okay, this is what you should do, but also I'm super busy, so I can't do those things, right? Do you guys ever get in that like mindset of you're like, okay, well now I'm standing up in between calls, rushing around, running to my workout, going to go do this.
I'll start tomorrow kind of thing.
Yeah, it's fine.
I think for me, like for me as a coach, when I felt myself slipping into that, it was almost, I felt myself slipping into that, and it was right around, I hope we don't get flagged. It was right around when that virus hit the world. And I don't want us to get flagged. So when that virus hit the world, and for those who don't know, I am in Canada, so it was pretty hardcore as far as their reaction to it. We were essentially quarantined. It was like pretty much like over a year. Like it was crazy. And unfortunately, so I lost that outlet. Of my identity of leaving the house. Because at that time, the only thing I really needed to leave the house for was groceries and to go to the gym. And so everything was here. And I was training in my basement next to my laundry. I was hanging bands from the floorboards or the ceiling. And that is when I had my like, oh shit moment, where I was downstairs trying to train, and in between sets, I opened up my phone and I would start doing emails. I felt myself slipping away, and that lasted, probably like 4 to 6 weeks. And that's when I immediately reached out to somebody and said, hey, this is not me. I'm not doing this bullshit. Like it wasn't, and like no disrespect to any clients that are listening to this, but it wasn't about you guys. It was about me. It was about me as Meredith, as a human being on this earth. And I was like, if I don't have my identity as me, what do I have? I have nothing. And I felt all that slipping away. And that's when you kind of go to a really shitty spot. And I was like, you start second guessing yourself in every aspect of you as being a human, every aspect of you as being a coach, every aspect of me and my relationships, with other people. And at that time, it was like me, my husband and my dog. Like that's it, in this house, because we weren't allowed to see anybody. There's curfews. You can't be outside. The sirens are going. I'm just kidding. That was a little sick, but it felt like that. Really on the curfews, not the sirens. And when I felt me as a human being slipping away, I was like, not today, Satan. And that's when I reached out to my now business and strength coach, Paul. And I was like, hey, I heard you on a podcast, and I want more accountability to show up for myself. And I said, because that is my job. I have to do as a coach, and I love that job. But if I see myself slipping away, I can't serve because I'm a hypocrite. And I am not a hypocrite. I refuse to be a hypocrite. So I don't know if I was like child syndrome where I'm like, I don't want to be a hypocrite, but that was like my thing. And
I think
it's so important.
Yeah, I relate to that.
Yeah, it's easy too. I think like I fear sliding back into the same habits that I know can create these bigger issues. Cause like, I think we know what we can forecast. If I'm here now, where will I be in 10 years if it doesn't change? Because we see this on a daily basis. And I think that's like the biggest thing of like longevity. I think that like, this is my new, you guys ever feel like as coaches, you get passionate about like a direction? You know, like I'm really into like
Always.
Okay.
I must say on a daily fucking basis, it is today brings your tomorrow, which brings your next week, which brings your next year. Like conquer your fucking day.
A thing that I'm like really feel so like passionate about. Like I could bring tears to my eyes because it's like what we are doing right now is going to change what the next 10 years looks like for us health wise, hormone wise, everything, right? And so if we're thinking and we're basing our life on those decisions, like how do I want my perimenopausal years to work? What do I want my retirement years to look like? What do I want? What do I want to do? How do I want to feel and look when I'm playing with my grandkids? Do I want to be dealing with arthritis? Do I want to be dealing with gut dysfunction? Do I want to have these how long do I want to live? Like, what do I want the quality of my life to look like in 10 years? Because if we start today to get into action for 10 years, it is 1000% possible because the body is resilient. But if we continuously are living this lifestyle that puts us in a place where we're only moving further and further away from what longevity would look like, we will be there. You see these chronic cases as they come to us when they're in their 50s, they're in their 60s, and they've lived 20, 30 years of high stress, no sleep, poor diet, bad blood sugar regulation, what that has done to their body and their quality of life and overall neurotransmitter profile. And that's something that we have to also look into too, right? Is like our neurotransmitter profile, our predispositions to things like dementia, Alzheimer's, the things that we're moving closer to every day when we're missing sleep, when we're getting up, when we're checking those emails, when we're on our computers late at night, like the dysfunction in mitochondria, like antioxidants. We see this in our clients with oxidative stress as well. Like we're moving away from our lifespan, and our health span determines that, Yeah.
No, absolutely. I mean, for like myself, like I really value structure and discipline, and a lot of that, I mean, you kind of got me thinking about this, Sonia. Like on the podcast we did with the guys, someone asked about like something like morning routines and optimizing metabolic health or something, and I didn't get to answer on that episode, but structure and routine is so big for your body. Like your neurotransmitters, your hormones love routine and structure. If you're bouncing all over the place all the time with not even just your schedule, but your meal timing, your diet quality, everything like that, it throws your body off. And not only will you like feel better physically, but you'll feel better mentally just having that routine. And I'm not saying you got to be like a freaking psycho about it. Like within a 30-minute to an hour window of kind of your schedule is still being on a schedule compared to fly by the seat of your pants and just be reactive to the rest of the world.
Yeah. I say that often to my clients. I think I made a post about it. Probably need to make another one. I want so much like for myself, and like I look at others around me, and I learn a lot by just listening and watching people, reading of people. And there are so many people that are reactive. And it's the difference between being a thermometer and a thermostat. I know we've all probably heard that analogy. But I really think that that's something that we should all think about, is being a thermometer versus, or being a thermostat versus a thermometer, when it comes to our lives and our days. And I totally agree, having some sort of routine, and it's almost a routine that should be a ritual. meaning that you don't even have to think about it. It's just, it is part of you, but it takes a long time for that to happen. And that's where I think we'll all agree where it takes practice, and you have to practice every day habits and routines so they can really become rituals and part of you. And the moment you don't feel like doing something because of whatever has come into it, I'll always use brushing your teeth. The moment you're like, oh, I'm not going to brush my teeth, tonight, like get your ass out of bed. Like literally it takes 3 minutes to go in there, brush your freaking teeth and go back to bed. Like it's proving it to yourself, I think, because it's that mindset of, oh, I'll do it tomorrow, that will leach into you. You want to talk about a virus? That is a virus right there. That I'm gonna say it, have that mediocrity of just putting it off, or just coming up with a story or an excuse. Like
it totally destroys self-esteem too. You'll see that people generally who have that, hey, I'm gonna do this, and they never follow through with that. Like it does, it starts to mess with their self-esteem, and then it's like, I can't do it and I won't do it. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, I've got 50,000 things I need to do. So it just feels overwhelming. So I won't do any because that feels better. It's a really bad cycle to be in. And yeah, I think you're right. Like that is a virus that leaches into people's life. And I think that I also believe that, like you're saying right now, with just small repetitive things that are very easy to do. I'm going to wake up and brush my teeth. I'm going to drink my water first thing in the morning. Like those patterns can carry on to like bigger and better things throughout time as well.
Yeah. I'm really big on the power list where you like write down your like big 5 things. And I think a lot of people would benefit from not doing your 5 work tasks that you have to do, doing your 5 health tasks that you need to do, and winning them like every single day for like weeks. And then you add something different. So like you just said, like the water, getting a walk in, meal prep, whatever it is, like doing your 5 things and doing them every single day. And you get to say at the end of the day, like, I won that day. Like that feels really freaking good. And don't try to do, there's no, like, don't shame your wins. Okay. So like, if you're somebody where you're drinking 50 ounces of water a day, don't think that aiming for 75 is a shitty goal or not worth putting on that power list. It is absolutely worth it. And you only think that it's not worth it because you're comparing to me who drinks 1.5 gallons a day, right? Like whatever it is, like you don't shame your wins and write down those big tasks, because you'll notice not only how good you feel doing those tasks, but then like just the task itself, like the benefit it has for you physically and mentally.
Yeah, that's the momentum. Like that is the momentum. When we talk about momentum as, through coaching, like that is the momentum we're talking about. Like it may seem like a small stepping stone, but I think that water example was great. Like I have clients where I'm like, okay, awesome. So you hit 50 ounces this week, and it was pretty consistent. I'm going to challenge you next week. Let's hit 70 ounces. And you know what? Maybe next week you have a little bit more trouble. That's okay. We just keep pushing. And that is how, everyone has these ideas of how they want to feel and ideas of how they want to look. And what they don't understand is it takes us stacking all these things to really start going. And we have to, like you said, have that power list of health, those non-negotiables. And you know what? If something was a non-negotiable and somehow it got to be negotiated on that day, figure out what happened. And you know what? Don't look at it as a negative, like what the fuck happened? Like literally be like, okay, well, oh, that's right. Well, little Susie ran out in front of a car. So that was a little bit of a priority, like look at it as a learning opportunity about like, hey, okay, well, shit happens. So tomorrow I'm going to make it happen. But you don't just throw shit to the wayside every fucking day and then complain about why you're not getting where you want to go. Why am I always identifying with being sick? Started, like we've said, identifying as that person who is achieving the, what do you always say? Not the abundance, but mentality. There's something else that y'all both say, and I can't remember it right now. Oh my gosh. Anyway, it'll come to me. It's something you always say.
I think that knocks the nail on the head, is the saying. I had to think about that for a second, but
I think we had a lot of nuggets in this one for people.
Yeah, this was a nice off the cuff. I love this one. Even for me as a human being, I want to say this live on the air. Like power of 3 here, but power of 5, whatever your circle is. If you get a power of 10, then more power to you. But like the people you surround yourself with, when we're talking about all these nuggets and these, life things and these habits that you have, understand that your environment to all these things matter. And I can say, like, these ladies on this podcast, like, they are in that circle for me of people that push me to be better, that also tame me when I need to be tamed, tell me I'm okay when I'm not feeling I am. And those matter, that tribe that you have, like, that's going to help elevate you or drag you down. So I think that's one more thing I would say that I really look forward to with these ladies. This was a total off the cuff. We did not come in here spouting, atoms and all this other, shit about nitrogen and all these things. Like, this is real life applicable things that we can all do.
Yeah, the atoms and the bacteria sites and the tiny little microbiomes and like all those little words, all the shit that we could throw off, and autophagy and the mitochondria, like none of it it can all be very simple, as in like what you surround yourself with is what you become. Your environment influences your sleep, your mindset influences your digestion. Like it can be made so simple too. And the same thing, I think, for just like a podcast, we're like, let's just get on and kind of like speak our mind. And we always go like a direction, because I know that we're all very aligned in what we're seeing and what we're wanting to bring value, what we're wanting to do to bring value to our clients and the people that we surround ourselves with daily. It's all very, very aligned, even though we are very different in our approaches, which I also really, really respect. And I think we saw that even with the boys on their podcast about how we can all just have like a very different mindset that works towards the same goal, but the foundation is pretty much the same. You know what I mean? It's kind of like when they say like eat your fruits and veggies, like we all have like the basics that we have down. And but we all have the drive to want to see the clients that we have succeed, as well as the people in our lives. So very, very cool little circle.
Yep. Agreed.
Yeah. Very
all right.
Cool.
Yeah.
This is a good one. And as always, if you enjoyed, please be sure to share it on your Instagram stories. We like seeing that. Leave a review if you have the time. And we'll see you next time.
Double check your stars so you don't leave a good review with 1 star like my boyfriend did.
Oh, God.
We love you, Maddie.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah. All right. Bye, guys.